Yes. 2 months ago, the Ohio State Buckeyes thought their season was over and their coach would be fired, yet after another disappointing loss to that school up north known as Michigan. And yet this week, that team that had dramatically fallen from the top of college football with its epic failure, transformed and motivated, became national champions. Who doesn't love a redemption story? Maybe Michigan and Notre Dame fans. Our lives are often filled with disappointment, filled with failure, maybe not on the national sports stage, maybe not on the level of our Torah portion, when our ancestors were enslaved by Pharaoh for 400 years, toiling under the oppressive Egyptian regime. And yet, when we look at our world today, a world on fire, a world frozen below zero, a world with now 90 of our hostages still remaining in Gaza, in a divided nation and a new administration, I don't mean to be a downer at Shabbos, and especially after that college football game, but sports can only do so much. In a world where transformation seems like an impossible challenge, an obstacle that can't be overcome, Dr. Martin Seligman and Dr. Carol Dweck, among others, teach a philosophy known as positive psychology and the power of yet, the importance to have what they call a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset, to believe that transformation is indeed possible and that our future is yet unwritten. The new book of the Torah, Shmot, which we began last week in English, is translated as the book of Exodus, since that is its most important core story, our redemption from Egypt. But that is not the literal translation of the Hebrew word Shmot. It means names. Names are important. Names are crucial. In fact, the rabbis teach that every person actually has 3 names. We have the name that our parents give to us. We have the name that our friends and our peers call us. Hopefully it's a name that can go in public. But the rabbis say that we actually have a 3rd name, and that is the name that we give ourselves by the lives we live, the name that we earn by the way that we live our lives. We know that Abraham and Sarah, that Jacob and many others in our Torah undergo name changes, usually marking an important transformation in their lives. They receive or make a new name for themselves by blazing a new path, by charting a new course. God too has many names: Adonai, Elohim, El Shaddai. And in the book of Exodus, in Sefer Shmot, the book of names, God also takes on a new name. At the burning bush, there God meets Moses, or Moses meets God, and there God, Adonai, is called the God of your ancestors, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Ve'Elohei Yaakov, a phrase that's familiar from our Siddur, of course. God is the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And then God speaks directly to Moses and charges him with the mission to return back to Egypt, to confront Pharaoh, to tell Pharaoh to let my people go, and to lead our ancestors to freedom. How does Moses respond to God's call? Moses responds back, Mi Anochi, who am I? Who am I? What's my name? Who am I that I should be the one to go down to Pharaoh and free the Israelites from Egypt? Who am I? What can I do by myself? How can I be worthy? How can I succeed? How am I even qualified for such a mission? Who am I to lead the people? At that moment, the Torah describes Moses using the past tense. The phrase Moshe Haya, Moses was, is repeated over and over. Moses was a shepherd. Moses was once a prince in Egypt. Moses was once a baby born to nameless parents and left in a basket in the Nile River. Moshe Haya, Moses was. He lived in the past. He was stuck in a fixed mindset. He was unable to see another future, unable to see a new path, unable to see the power in himself to garner the ability to transform, he was stuck and unable to take action. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, in his commentary on Parshat Shmot, entitled Faith in the Future, discusses how Judaism and the Torah concept of God is a radical transformation in history. Up until the time of Judaism, for most religions, God was timeless, eternal, unchanging, immutable, and self-sufficient, a God who doesn't change and cannot change. But in our Torah, in the book of Exodus, at the burning bush, in conversation with Moses, it is there that God reveals another name, Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, translated as, I will be what I will be where I will be how I will be. As Rabbi Sachs emphasizes, God presents to Moses a name that is based in the future. Far from being timeless and unmoving, now God is in future tense. God is active, has a growth mindset, able to learn, or as Rabbi Sachs says, a God who is full of surprise. A God that leads us on journeys, lech lecha, a God that we follow to places that God shows us, a God that guides us to promised lands, out of slavery to redemption. And that's contrary to a faith that maintains a status quo or simply celebrates the good old times, that lives in nostalgia. Judaism has a belief in a messianic age. We don't believe the best has come yet. We believe in the power of yet, and that yet hasn't happened. Our faith looks to the future with the power of yet because we are future-oriented. We believe in transformation. We're not simply fixed on the past. What can be termed as learned helplessness in positive psychology, that is not who we are. We believe that by intentional acts, by choosing the right and the good, that we can transform, that a new dawn will come. Moses, initially, that Hayah, living in the past, was a hesitant leader. He was afraid of failure, always living in yesterday. And when Moses asked, Mi Anochi, who am I? The answer is, and it's the same question we ask ourselves oftentimes when we look in the mirror, Mi Anochi, who am I? It is time to see a new name, a new challenge, a new opportunity. Dr. Abraham Joshua Heschel writes in his book, No Religion is an Island, this quote, just to be is a blessing, just to live is holy, and yet being alive is no answer to the problems of living. To be or not to be is not the question. The vital question in life is how to be and how not to be. We have a tendency to forget this vital question, how to be and how not to be. Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh, God's new name, which we find in our Torah reading right now. We will be what we will be. I will be what I will be. I will be how I will be. Living with a growth mindset, pushing ourselves not to be fixed, that we can actually take action, that we can change and better our lives and all those around us. That is the answer to Heschel and to Moses and to life. And that's why our synagogue is embarking on a special teen trip tomorrow. Rabbi Foster, myself, and our youth leader, Ruth Gall, are taking 23 of our teenagers to Los Angeles. It's a trip that was initially focused on the Jewish response to homelessness and social justice. And now that trip takes on a special meaning, as we'll be volunteering in relief work for those displaced from the Los Angeles fires. And that's why we continually advocate for the return of the 90 hostages to bring them home now. We don't believe our lives are fixed, our worlds are fixed. We don't believe that the status quo is the final answer, because just like God, we must live in the future tense. As Rabbi Sachs says, we must pledge these words. I can't change yesterday, but I can change tomorrow by what I do today. We must honor the past, but not live in it, because faith is a revolutionary force. God calls us the same way that God called to Moses at the burning bush, to have faith in the future and have the courage to build it. And let us do that together. And we say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom.